Hi, I'm Cecilia. Welcome to today's study of Genesis. For more of me, find me on my Facebook, my Instagram, LinkedIn, and also my website. With them, you'll know more of who I am and what I stand for. In today's study of Genesis, we're going to start with chapter 23 of Genesis and see what happens there. But previously, we learned of Abraham and the test of faith that God gave him, where he asked him to sacrifice his own son Isaac and offer him as a sacrifice to God. And we learned also that Abraham heeded the word of God. He did not complain. He did not refuse. He did not grumble with God. He went ahead a 3 days journey into the mountains of Moriah, and he was ready and willing to sacrifice his own son. But at the right moment, God offered a ram that was caught in the thicket, and Abraham was able to replace his son Isaac by that ram and sacrificed it to God. And God told him that surely I have seen that you believe and you trust and you have faith in God, and that the promise that he had made to him previously, he made it to him again about his offspring being as many as the stars in the sky and as the sand in the seashore. And he also told him that through his offspring, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. And Abraham went back, and we were also reintroduced to his family, his brother Nahor, whom he had left in the land of Ur when he was called by God. And we are told that he had children, and also that they were doing well, like he was told again of his family. So this week we're going to read Genesis chapter 23 and listen and hear from the word of God. And it says, Sarah lived 127 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah. And Sarah died at Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham went in to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. And Abraham rose up from before his dead and said to the Hittites, I am a sojourner and foreigner among you. Give me property among you for a burying place, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. The Hittites answered Abraham, Hear us, my lord. You are a prince of God among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our tombs. None of us will withhold from you his tomb to hinder you from burying your dead. Abraham rose and bowed to the Hittites and the people of the land. And he said to them, If you are willing that I should bury my dead out of my sight, hear me and entreat for me Ephron the son of Zohar, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he owns. It is at the end of his field. For the full price let him give it to me in your presence as property for a burying place. Now Ephron was sitting among the Hittites, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the hearing of the Hittites of all who went in at the gate of his city, No, my lord, hear me, I give you the field, and I'll give you the cave that is in it. In the sight of the sons of my people, I give it to you. Bury your dead. Then Abraham bowed down before the people of the land, and he said to Ephron in the hearing of the people of the land, But if you will hear me, I give the price of the field. Accept it from me, that I may bury my dead there. Ephron answered Abraham, My lord, listen to me. A piece of land worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between you and me? Bury your dead. Abraham listened to Ephron, and Abraham weighed out for Ephron the silver that he had named in the hearing of the Hittites, 400 shekels of silver, according to the weights current among the merchants. So the field of Ephron in Machpelah, which was to the east of Mamre, the field with the cave that was in it, and all the trees that were in the field throughout its whole area, was made over to Abraham as a possession in the presence of the Hittites, before all who went in at the gate of his city. After this, Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah east of Mamre, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And the field and the cave that is in it were made over to Abraham as property for a burying place by the Hittites. And that is the word of God. And now from what we have read, what can we observe from it? We know that these things happened when Sarah died, like him acquiring the land in Hebron. It happened after Sarah died, and we are told that Sarah was 127 years old when he died. So that we can observe that Isaac at that time was about 37 years old, because Sarah was about 90 years old when she gave birth to Isaac. So we can also conclude that at that time they were living in Hebron, because previously they were living in Beersheba. So probably they moved again to a different land, which is Hebron, and it is still in the land of Canaan. So we can also see that the land of Canaan was pretty big, because at first they were in the Oaks of Mamre, then they moved to Gerar, then they moved to Beersheba, then they moved now to Hebron. And we can also observe that Abraham did mourn for his wife Sarah after she died, and also he asked the Hittites for a burial place that he could bury his dead wife, that is Sarah. At first he just asked for a cave, but then the Hittites offered him, like, look, among all of us, whichever cave pleases you, you can pick any one of them as a burying place for your wife, and also for your children or for your family to come. And Abraham told them that he loves best the land, or the cave that is in the land of Ephron, the son of Zohar, and he entreated him that he should give him that land. And Ephron told him that, I not only give you the land, but also I'm not only giving you the cave, but also the land that comes with it. And he was willing to give it to Abraham for free, but Abraham said that he was willing to pay the full price of that land. And Ephron told him it was about 400 shekels of silver, according to the merchants, and all according to how people sell land in that area. Like, it was in the area of the Hittites, it was 400 shekels, and Abraham was willing to give that amount to Ephron, and that's how the exchange was made. And that is the only land that Abraham had owned to that point, a burial place for his family. And Abraham bought it, and it was the field in Machpelah, or that's Machpelah, as however you pronounce it. There he buried Sarah, his dead wife. Now he bought the property as a burying place. It was not a place for him to stay, but a place for him to bury the dead. From the observation, what can we learn from it? We can learn that God blessed Sarah with a long life. She was able to live 127 years. That was long life. And she was able also to see his son grow from a young boy or an infant into a grown man. He was about 37 years old when she died. Abraham was still a sojourner in the land of Canaan. He did not own any place. He was just a sojourner. He had no place that he could call his own. And Abraham loved Sarah. He took time to mourn her death. You can see that also, or learn that from the passage that you've read. And also we can learn that the Hittites knew Abraham to be a man of God. They told him that we know that you are a prince of God. In verse 6, they tell him, hear us, my Lord, you are a prince of God among us. So they even respect him, like they showed respect to Abraham by calling him Lord. So we can see that they had a respect for Abraham. Abraham lived well amongst the Hittites, or amongst the people he sojourned alongside with, or among them, yes. And Abraham had good relations or rapport with the people among whom he dwelt. He lived peacefully among them. That's why they were ready to listen to him and to his plea to buy a place where he could bury his wife Sarah. And the Hittites were kind to him also. They freely offered a tomb that he may bury his wife. They did not refuse him, and at first they offered it to him freely. They were willing to give it to him freely, but Abraham was like, no, I must buy it for my own, to bury his dead. And Abraham did not want to bury his wife in a tomb that did not cost him anything. He was willing to spend his money to be able to get it, or to get a burying place for his wife. He also wanted to secure a place that all his family will be buried in. Probably he did not want his dead to be scattered around the land of Canaan, because then if it was just a borrowed place, then when another person of his family died, he would probably have to borrow another place. But him buying it, owning it as his own, it was he was free, or his family could use that as a burial place. And you can also learn that the only possession of land that Abraham had to that point, him being now, if Sarah died at 127, then Abraham was at this point 137 years old. So at 137 years old, him still being a sojourner, the only place he owned in the promised land was that field of Machpelah. That field that was given to him, that was sold to him specifically to be a burying place. So the only land he owned at the age of 137 in the promised land that he had lived now for almost 50 years, or past 50 years now, was a burial place. That is what we can learn in the passage that we have just read. So he did not yet have a full possession of the land of Canaan. So he had faith that even if he himself would not own the land of Canaan, his lineage that is to come, the ones that God promised him to be as many as the stars in the sky, will be able to possess the whole land of Canaan. So that is where Abraham was at the time Sarah died. Sarah, his wife, died. And what can we apply to our faith from what we have learned? What can we apply? We can see first that God is the giver of life. Sarah was able to live 127 years only because God had granted her that life. If it were not for God, she would not have been able to live that long. And then you can apply to live righteously among the people of the word, and they will honor you, as Abraham lived righteously among the people of Canaan, the Canaanites. He was able to live righteously among them, and they honored him and they respected him, and they were willing to listen to him and hear him and accept his proposal too. And that is how he proves that he was living righteously, or he lived righteously amongst the foreigners that he lived amongst the foreigners he lived with. Yes. Have good relations with your neighbors, and they will lend you a hand in your time of need. Like how Abraham, in the time that he needed to bury his wife, they were willing to offer him land for free, or a cave to bury his dead for free. So he lived well with the people around him. So you also live well with your neighbors. Have good rapport, have good reputation with your neighbors, that in your time of need, even though they do not hold the same faith as you, they will be willing to give or to lend their hand to you because of how well you have lived among them. You can also apply that what God has promised will come to pass, even though you will not be the one who will see it happen or come to life. God has promised you, probably it will come in your third generation or in your fourth generation. So you just hold the faith as Abraham did. He is the one who held the faith. He was the one who received the first promise, but ultimately it is his great grandchildren who came to possess the land of Canaan. He just lived in it. He saw a glimpse of the possession that God had told him, but actually it is his great grandchildren who came to possess it. So still have faith and hold it, that faith that God has promised you, and pass it on to generations, that they also may believe that what God had promised to you will come to pass, and that they will see it in the generations to come. Yes, that is the study of Genesis for today. So if there's anything else you want to add into the study, please write it down in the comment section. And I thank you for joining me today. Until we see each other next week, goodbye and God bless you.